Welcome to another edition of the Morning Briefing. I'm Jeff DeForest along with Mike Lubie. Lubitz, very happy to have you with us here on NoFilter.net once again. And I suppose, unfortunately, that we should start right out in the graveyard, Mike Lubitz, because it was Burial City for the team that we had, that we were rooting for in the baseball playoffs. Went out in a whimperish type fashion. It's Gary Gilmore time, huh? Give me a blindfold, please, Warden, and the last drag on a cigarette.
Fucking Marlins.
50-1. And we were trying to encourage people to maybe consider taking that 50-1 price on the Marlins to win the World Series. And then they were 18-1 to win the National League pennant. They are doing none of that at this stage, although a remarkable season that we followed very closely because we had thrown in the towel any number of times. I mean, we were giving them a standing 8 count as recently as a month ago. 6,
Yes.
7, 8. It was Richard Steele time. Step in and stop it. Stop your hopes. Stop your dreams. Crushed them like a grape.
Yep.
And they made their way. They fought their way into the postseason, but ran into the Philadelphia Phillies, who have been a hot team, and bring up a very interesting idea about how front offices can just fuck up a wet dream. And it happened. I mean, you have to track this back now. Well, what we're talking about, I'm a big fan, Louis, as you know, of the late, great Earl Weaver, who managed by gut instinct. And people would say, what? You're going to put Lowenstein out in left field? He goes, well, you know what? He's 3 for 5 against this guy. So we had a little bit of Bill James in him also.
Yeah.
A little baseball abstract. This was the early version. I mean, it was kind of like, the old days where you used to meet a woman in a bar and she would actually write her phone number on a napkin and you would save the napkin.
Yep.
As opposed to, she already had condemned you as an asshole on social media before you even left the place. That's the way it is today. And Earl, he had this written down on his sleeve, like he was Al Michaels calling that hockey game in the 1980 Olympics there. Do you believe in miracles? Yeah, I got it right. Yeah, that was, do you believe in miracles? He wrote that down at lunchtime. Anyway, it was, one of those things where, we thought maybe we were in there with a little bit of a shot. And I always revert back to this. Here was Weaver, and he would manage by gut instinct. And you're thinking the sabermetrics and these analytics just really are destroying franchises and organizations. And the perfect example is the New York Mets. And the reason I bring them up is because I think we might have touched on this earlier this week, where the Mets have a pitching staff that is so good, so rich, so deep in talent. They have Matt Harvey, the fair-haired boy. When he pitched in New York, it was like Fernando Mania had gone to the East Coast. The whole city was abuzz. People on subways, they were waking up homeless people, and the guy would look up and go, "Is Harvey pitching today?" And then all of a sudden, he plug in turn on a little transistor radio, start listening to the game there. Here we are at Citi Field, and I tell you what, it's a good crowd on hand.
Yep.
And Harvey, and where is he today? I think he's pitching in Guatemala somewhere. I'm not sure. Got the big money, got hurt, took a little bit of a playboy approach to things. I mean, he was like Aaron Rodgers without the darkness. Right? Maybe even he might have been inclined to join Aaron out there on one of those darkness retreats. Matt Harvey, he seemed to, was it Julian Edelman that he ended up having a big fight with? Because they were, both attracted to the same model who was destroying the entire world of sports.
Edelman, yeah. Was it Alexandra? What was her name? I loved. She was great.
Hot, yeah, no, smoking hot, man. And she was all over Matt Harvey at a boxing match at the Barclays Center. And the next day, she was at a party with Edelman. It was incredible. Harvey was destroyed. I remember he didn't show up for a game. Everybody was like, what happened, man? He showed up like drunk for a ball game there. You would have thought that, he was Bob Murphy back in the day. Just, I think I'll have a little nip here before we call the game. What a day for a ball game. There's a lion drive. All right, so he was on the staff. You had Jacob deGrom, the human injury. Unfortunately, I mean, great pitcher when he's, out there on the mound. Very, very dynamic. Who can hit this guy, right? Nobody. He's, Goose Gossage, Mariano Rivera, and, any great hard thrower flame thrower that you've ever seen. He's freaking Tom Seaver, this guy.
Yep.
But unfortunately, doesn't get to play much. And here he is now. He's like a huge liability financially for the Texas Rangers, who somehow overcame all of that and made their way into the second round. But DeGrom, you would have to say, The Mets' commitment to Jacob deGrom turned out to be largely misguided. Then they had Steven Matz, and where, yeah, deGrom is going to be on the permanently unable to perform list. I mean, pretty soon here. What is he out with? His like seventh Tommy John.
Yeah,
he
honestly.
he may as well just change his name to Tommy John. Become a left-hander and start throwing that slop after the surgery. My elbow, it's good, but it's not the same. They had Steven Matz, who was a fair-haired boy over in Long Island. He grew up there. He was the hometown kid, and everybody thought that he was going to be the best of them all, possibly. And I think he's the last time. Did you see Steven Matz? Was he on some wrestling show out of the Midwest that I picked up on the satellite the other day? I think he's become like a tag team wrestler, but long since gone from the Mets rotation. And then Noah Syndergaard, I remember going to a spring training game. Syndergaard pitched an inning. I said, that guy is unhittable. He's untouchable. He's all Elliott Ness. And it looked like he was going to be just an outrageously, even eclipsing Harvey in popularity in New York. And he's become essentially a baseball journeyman and is doing what Harvey did at the end of his career, where he signs maybe late in the season with the Cincinnati Reds, goes 1-5. Yep. With an earned run average that looks like a blood alcohol level of Exana Bayou.
It says Matt's on the Cardinals, by the way, so that shows you how relevant he is. We had no clue what team he was on.
No, I mean, it's not like he, made you forget about Bob Gibson. That's for sure. Plus, we're being facetious about the whole thing because the point being that here's a team that has all of these analytic guys and sabermetric guys and a deep-rooted mathematical understanding of everything that goes into making a ball player. But what they're missing is the Earl Weaver gut instinct about a player. And they let Zach Wheeler go. They deemed him to be expendable.
Yeah.
And what is Zach Wheeler doing but powering the Philadelphia Phillies to the World Series last year and now into the divisional round of the playoffs, where they'll take on the Atlanta Braves again in the postseason in the second round after crushing the dreams of our Miami Marlins. Couldn't help but think Cinderella Man there. And we've had Cinderella-like year here in South Florida sports. So, Lubie, I mean, unprecedented. And likely never to happen again. And we've sort of talked about it where all of the teams, both on the pro and the college level, have done things that you would deem to be impossible in any number of seasons, much less all in the same season. And yet, there's a big, fat, round number on the scoreboard here. We still have a total of 0 championships that we've been able to accomplish here in the area. People die in fairy tales too. I'm thinking Cinderella Man, Max Baer. He's talking to James J. Braddock. Is Mrs. Braddock standing there? She's all concerned, as she should be, that this guy's about to get killed, and he just whispers in her ear, "People die in fairy tales too." Yeah. And that's what's been happening to us here. So I don't know that it wasn't anticipated. You, my friend, were extremely pessimistic yesterday and correctly predicted that the Marlins were going down in flames in that ball game. And then you gave out your lock of the century, which was great. And, at what level of sickness are you as a degenerate, people, if you're thinking, you know what I like tonight? I like Florida International University. Who even knew there was a fucking school named Florida International University? Now, we happen to be friendly with the coach there. He used to coach at Colorado. He has an accomplished college and pro resume. He's been in the pros also as an assistant. Mike McIntyre is the guy's name. Yep. And he convinced me at his introductory press conference, which is normally, the biggest crock of shit, aside from the NFL general manager. There's Jeff Ireland. He's speaking today to the media, and he's going to give you the draft analysis and prognosis for this Dolphins team. Or any team for that matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, every gentleman, biggest bullshit press conference is the pre-draft press conference with the NFL team's general manager or representative.
Or the post-recruiting. You always talk about when a coach talks about the recruiting class.
Recruiting class, yeah.
Bullshit.
We mentioned it yesterday, right? What doctors ever come out and said, fuck, I butchered this guy. He will never recover. This man will never throw another pitch at any level of baseball again. I mean, his shoulder is completely ruined. I can't believe I left the suture in there and, whatever. I mean, never happens, right? It's always, things went very well. And if everything goes according to plan, here he should be back in the game in 2 weeks. Like, yeah, sure. Okay, Dr. Vinny Boombox. I mean, who are you kidding? This guy ain't playing again. We know it. Successful shoulder surgery, the sportscaster's
Exactly.
nightmare. But yeah, that's always the bogus press conference for sure. So you're asking yourself, I mean, what can you possibly believe? What can you take
Which
away from somebody that's telling you something so generic? But this guy McIntyre convinced me at his introductory press conference where everybody says what, Luby? Well, obviously we have a lot of work to do. Gonna have to get out on the road there. In fact, I have to leave right now. Hey, Joe, you got a sandwich, man? I got to catch an Uber. We're going to Tennessee. Catch that kid there. And they're busy right away. I mean, they're ready to just leap into this. And McIntyre was so enthusiastic with Florida International University, and that Lubie and I actually started requesting him to be on one of our shows as a
100%.
regular. And it turns out he's a delightful guy. So there was reason to want to think that they were going to be successful in this spot. But
Mhm.
never bet with your heart, Lubie. Never bet
That's
with your heart. It is a
That's
kiss
true.
of death.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and there was some logic to it. They were in there against New Mexico State. This was your super double wheel gold seal, sub platinum play of the century. And you lost it. What do you do when you lose the game of your life?
You go
Do you
away.
go on living? I mean, I don't mean to suggest anything, but how do you come back from that? When you lose the game, I got the game of my life.
I'm still
You're hearing a
here.
lot of that on various outlets, are you not? And platforms. I got the game of my life. It's tough, man. Sportscasters, it's like weather people. I've always said this. If you could book the weatherman's action, you would be a rich man today. Even in the simplest of situations, a place like where we live or California, where the weather's the same every day.
Yes.
Right? Essentially, I mean, maybe it evolves a little bit over time. Okay, the temperatures drop down there. Only going to be 107 today here in South Florida. It's December, God.
For
It's
98.
December. You have to start to believe after a while maybe there's something to this global warming thing. No?
A bit.
Hurricanes in Palm Springs? Are you
Right.
kidding me? Palm Springs, California. The wind's blowing 140 miles an hour. What are you talking about? We're not
Exactly.
talking about some sandstorm, Louis. And you're not in the middle of the Sahara like you were in Morocco.
Exactly.
Unbelievable. But yeah, if you could book the weatherman's action, you'd be a rich man today. And if you could book any sportscaster's action, for the most part, you would have to think you would be a rich man today. That being said, I think we have to come up with a bold prediction about tonight's NFL game, just to give the people something to hate us more for.
Exactly. You want me to do it again?
What enticement would it take to get somebody to bet on the Chicago Bears? What would you have to give somebody besides 5.5 points, which you said the line has now climbed to 6.5?
I'm saying if it's at eight or more, I wouldn't touch it. But to actually go the other way and bet the Bears, I would want like 16. Do I want 20? Like I feel like I want like 3 scores at least to really go with the Bears.
I don't know if this would be desirable, but it seems like it would take like a blowjob from Mike Ditka to get somebody to bet on the Bears, or maybe the ability to refuse that.
I was gonna say an offer. I don't know if I'm accepting that offer.
What could you offer somebody? What bookmaker could? I mean, can you imagine? These books have to be going crazy. There will be people that bet the Bears and probably end up winning this game. That's the strange part. As you start to realize, hey, I thought we had more money in the bank than that. And now they're just draining it right out of your financial wherewithal. I mean, you don't even have access to it anymore. I think now I have to actually go to like one of these betting sites to be able to make a withdrawal. I don't have any money in the bank. It's all it's all there, right? Hey, FanDuel, can I have some of my money back? The Commanders, though, I mean, not exactly a team that you're saying we are big fans of Ron Rivera's. He was in there, took the Philadelphia Eagles to overtime. The Eagles considered to be one of the better teams, top 3 teams in the National Football League, along with Kansas City and the 49ers. And yet, I mean, they haven't been overwhelming this year, the Philadelphia Eagles. They're winning their games. They're 4-0. Yeah. But it isn't like you're looking at them going, my God, who's going to beat these guys?
No.
This is not some team that appears to be monstrous and headed directly to the Super Bowl and a return visit there where they try to make amends for what was an ugly performance in the second half last year. That was great, man. When all those Philadelphia Eagle fans, there were cheesesteaks in the pool there at Harrah's in Atlantic City. People were just firing cheesesteaks at each other, and they're all wearing Eagles uniforms. My buddy and I have a little taste on Kansas City on the money line, and we keep screaming money line with every successive play in the fourth quarter when it became apparent that the Chiefs were going to prevail in that game. All right, so Ron Rivera, good guy. All right, kind of guy that really impressed us with his humility. Well, we've met him a few times on broadcasts from Radio Row's various Super Bowls. I would say maybe 3 times.
3 or 4 times we had him on our show with us. Yes,
real gentleman. And somebody that I don't know, was Dan Snyder. Was he happy to be able to retain this guy? Because hey, Dan, they got you on the Rooney Rule too. When was the last time you talked to a black guy? It's been a while. Exactly. So they brought him in there, Hispanic descent, and satisfied a little bit of this, quotient that they have that they're looking to provide balance. Not sure that it's working out so well, right? When you look at the manifestations of or lack thereof of any kind of minorities in these coaching positions. But we don't want to get too deeply into that. We just want to figure out, would you lay 6 and a hook with the Commanders tonight, Lubie?
Yes.
You say yes, I say yes, and therefore
you're fucked.
You have your morning briefing burial pick of the century.
Exactly.
How did the Bears win this game? Or come within a touchdown? They can't, right? This is 23-10, and that's 23-10 written all over it, doesn't it?
I feel like 21-10. I feel like the Commanders, Howell. Okay, the way they win is Howell likes to take chances. He's undersized, so he likes to chuck it. So if he chucks it enough, maybe they can take a couple back, so they don't have to score on offense. They can score on defense.
Yeah,
maybe that's how they win. I presume Howell will be smarter than that and just let his defense win the game, and they'll win. Like by 9 or 11 or 12 is what I would think.
All right. So you're going to go ahead and lay the points.
I'm in on the Commanders, and I think as long as it stays under 8, I would go Commanders.
All right. This is the problem here. I mean, too much chalk starts to taste like milk of magnesia. And then you get that sickening feeling that even this form of medication is not working. It's not enough to overturn the bad taste that's left in your mouth when you lose on a backdoor cover by just flailing Chicago Bears team that seems to be destined for nothing but darkness this year. And they somehow come up with a late pick 6. That wouldn't even be the case. They recover a fumble and run it in for a touchdown.
Exactly.
And get inside of a touchdown and end up covering the 6 and a hook. We'll see. I'm going to go Commanders. I'm with you, Lubie. So thank you, people. Save your money.
Well, tomorrow we'll have our handicappers plays. We'll bring them here.
Yes.
So they won't need us. They'll need actual professionals who know what the hell they're doing. So I will give an underdog. I like Washington State. The Pac-12 is freaking loaded.
That was a great pick by the professor a couple of weeks ago.
UCLA is good. Washington State is better. UCLA's quarterback, Dante Moore, is really good, but he's like either a freshman or a redshirt freshman. Cam Moore's been around a while. He's a dark horse for the Heisman. And Washington State has one of those Pac-12 teams that has a really good defense. They're getting 3 and a hook, and it's rare for a team that good. That is the ranked team at 13 to get that many points. So I will take Washington State on the road over UCLA getting 3 and a hook.
Yeah, these guys looked very impressive against Oregon State, which has that ukulele kid that used to play for Dabo. And was replaced, and he ends up at Oregon State, a high-flying offense. You're right. Pac-12, man, it's a shame that this thing is being decimated. Is it not?
Well, they're going to kill each other. Oh, yeah.
Much like our hopes and dreams. Yeah, with our Marlins yesterday. Wow. That was like, I don't know if you ever remember that. I mean, you weren't much of a fisherman. There used to be a fish that we would catch. We called it a hacklehead. Okay. When we were bottom fishing in New York City. And it was the ugliest fish that you've ever seen in your life. This is a species that, even Jacques Cousteau would have puked if he had to take a look at this on some reef. Hey, see that thing? I mean, ugly, my friend. Ugly. And that's how it will be, for the off season for the Marlins after, what we thought was going to be a Cinderella ride. Barely got out of the chute, huh? 1 stinking run in the 9th inning yesterday.
2 games
against the Phillies. And Zach Wheeler, I mean, you would have to think, gives him a shot in there in that series against the Braves. If he can he get 2 starts in a 5-game series? If it goes 5, Zach Wheeler?
Because they go 5, yeah.
Well, because the Mets thought that they had it together there with 4 guys that now are scattered about around the world of life and the game of life, including Steve Matz. Yeah. Still with the Cardinals? You got to be kidding me. I think he was signed by Red Schoendienst. That's a long time ago, Lubie. Maybe we're going to let the Mets off the hook. All right. You guys are off the hook for today. That's your morning briefing. Burial pick of the century. Commanders tonight laying 6.5 against the Chicago Bears. Bears on the road. Bears have been awful. Bears coughed up a giant lead against the Denver Broncos last week. The Broncos were unvictorious and unimpressive and in a total state of disarray. Already steam developing that, this Sean Payton's a fraud.
Honestly.
Hearing that, and that Russell Wilson may be the worst acquisition in the history of sports transactions since the Raiders made Jamarcus Russell the first pick in that year's draft. That was an unfortunate bust, but was it not? I guess there have been others, but yeah, I mean, it appears that the Russell Wilson deal may be one of the worst since the Chief went to the Celtics along with Kevin McHale for Joe Barry Carroll.
Exactly.
I guess Brittany Griner for Victor Boot. That was a bad basketball.
That's pretty bad.
The Merchant of Death for somebody that's going to average 17 points a game in the WNBA. I don't know. Brett Auerbach isn't pulling the trigger on that one. All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot for joining us. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Great to be with you on NoFilter.net, and we'll see you next time. The next edition, tomorrow's edition, which will be a degenerate edition of the Morning Briefing.